And we are hopping into graphics. How is, ooh, that is not rare. That's right. I've been trying to learn Adobe Premiere so I can use it to do my videos. How is Photoshop going? Do you have any problems right now, or is everything working okay for you? Awesome. Still working on our no, we're gonna I'm gonna do something new, so I'll pop this in. Still working with all of our tools, so we're gonna add a couple tools today. I'm gonna share screen. Point. So I have this image here. We're going to go over these selection tools, and we're going to see what the difference is in them. So Kylie, right now in share screen, if you have a message to me, hopefully, let me see if I move this. I don't think I can. Hopefully, if it does something, it'll show me, because I can't see the text right now. That's the only thing. So we're going to start at the top. This is our Marquee tool. Right-click on it, brings up all the subtools. And basically, this is for wide, broad selection. So if I wanted to just select a certain area. The Marquee tool allows me to do a couple of things. So I'm going to press B to activate my brush. In this picture, I'm going to come up here to the top menu, switch it to the hard brush, leave it at 45 pixels. It's about that big. When I have I didn't do that right. When I have a selected area, it'll let me make marks inside that area. So I'll pop a new thing above it. The problem I have is when I get outside of it, I can't do any marks at all. My marks are limited to just inside the selection tool. So it's a nice way, if I'm working on something, I want to make sure I don't make a mistake somewhere else, I can use the selection tool to that advantage. The next thing I can do is if I combine that with the move tool, as soon as I'm inside my selection, it makes a pair of scissors. And outside, it's just the normal move. But when I get inside of there, it tells me nothing's selected because I have nothing on that layer. So I'm going to duplicate, right-click, duplicate, and it's going to ask me if I want to duplicate the layer. A little menu like this pops up, and I say yes. Now in that selection, it cuts out that piece. So when I turn these off, it shows me the new piece without anything on it. Control Z will put it back. And now it's in its original spot. Inside the selection, I can Control C copy. I can Control V paste. It'll create a new layer from that selection. And I can then go in and operate. So if I turn these off, I have just that piece selected. So selection tool just meant to kind of limit where we are and help us setting everything up into a small controlled zone. Smaller things, again, so I'm gonna Alt zoom in, and if I just wanted to get just a small piece, I can take just a small piece, and I can pull those little guys wherever I want. If I want to have multiple of these, I can hit Shift, and notice the plus sign appears. And if I hit Alt, the minus sign appears. So Alt, and I go in with this, and it trims out my selection. Shift with a plus will add to a selection, or it will add another selection spot. So then I can go ahead and I can manipulate just those areas. Control D, deselects. So Control D is going to be our good friend for while we're doing this. Next in our selection tools, we're going to come down here. Again, if you hover over them, I'll tell you what they are. These are our lasso tools. By default, the lasso tool looks like this guy, and it's a pretty free-form tool. And since we're not using tablets, we're using mouse and keyboards. It lets me take a selection and grab an area. If I take part of it, as soon as I let go, it will close the selection for me. So I can be anywhere, and something like this, it tries to make point-to-point connection. So it makes this kind of weird shape inside of it. If I know I don't have to worry about part of it, I can just go ahead, let go. For example, I'm going to Alt zoom out and Control D. And again, we're going to come up here to these cabinets, and I take this selection piece. I can go out and around it. It automatically makes a line. I let go, and it will drop to the next connection point. So it automatically followed that edge. And then because I kept going this way, it stopped following the edge. But that's a way to use those selections. Still, Shift adds, Alt subtracts from my total. And I can do little things like this. And this is going to help you when you're building your parts, because you can select just pieces out of information. The lasso click tool, so Control D, deselect that. Alt zoom in. This one is nice when I want to have a little bit more precision. And every time I click, so I'm left clicking, it leaves a drop spot. And I can easily and precisely go around an object. And doing this is going to help me with control and be precise. Now here's the thing: is the rest of this gap I don't need to be tight on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click, and that's how it finishes its collection. So at the end, double click and it makes a larger jump for me, but that gives me a really tight, precise tool. If I do Shift with this, it still gives me a plus, and basically I could double click again, it'll add in that chunk. Alt will remove, and I can let go of Alt or Shift at the end when I'm going to do the double click, just to get that little piece in there. Control D, deselect. Final tool inside of this, the Magnetized Tool. It's kind of a cool where it tries to guess, smart guess, the edge of an object. So we're going to start out here and see how it kind of traces his face, but it doesn't do a perfect job. You can see at the top of the eye there, it lost some. It doesn't like flat edges, flat edge lines, because it's going to try to guess. So we'll see what it does around here. And it picks up, but I missed some spots back in here. I missed a little bit of spot there. And again, Shift allows me to magnetize, add. And if I click, you can hear me clicking. I can click around, but these little spots did not get caught into it. They kind of stayed out. All right, so we're going to stop there for a second because that gives us two of those tools. You have a mouse. Awesome. It's going to save you a ton of time. Yay. So that is the Marquee Tool and the Lasso Tool that I just showed you. I'm going to Control D, get off that. So do you have any questions about using those two guys? Okay, so we're going to keep going in. In about 4 seconds, I'm going to say, hey, Kylie, send me a text message, and I'll see if it makes a light or a noise for me. But I don't know if it is. So let's go back to screen sharing. All right, so send me a message. Ooh, it does pop. Why doesn't it show me that chat? There it is. Okay, I figured out how to do it. Cool. So now I've learned how to do chat. So we've used Marquee Tool, we've used Lasso Tool. Now we're going to get into probably one of our happier ones. The Quick Select tool and the Magic Wand. The object selection is new, and I haven't played with it that much. And it's a thinky tool. So I just made that big selection, and it selected this little space. I'm going to stay away from the object tool because I haven't experimented with it enough to know what it does. The Quick Select tool and the Magic Wand. So big difference between the two. They do the same thing. They look at the pixels and they say, hey, this is what you want. When I do the Magic Wand, I click, and where I click, it tries to pick up what pixels it thinks. So I'm going to zoom in really close to this picture. So we are at the pixel level. And where I clicked, it saw a particular set of patterns and said, this is what he wants. And the darker areas next to it, it said, nope, he doesn't want those. So the Quick Select tool necessarily is useful in some things, but not in everything. So like if I hit Quick Select on the counter, it selects most of the counter, but it's not going to select all of it. In the bowl, it does not get the shaded areas. But if I were doing something and I just wanted to hit skin tone, I can hold Shift down and I can keep clicking around, and it's going to pick up most of my skin tone eventually. It's going to take a couple of quick clicks, but it will get there. Control D, instead of using that one, so instead of the Magic Wand, we're going to Quick Select. And Quick Select is, I'm going to increase its size just a little using my right bracket. Quick Select, and we'll zoom back into Percy's head, it selects an area. It's a little bit smarter of a tool. So all I'm doing is I am just holding and dragging. I'm not pressing Shift. This is the default for it. I can change some of those settings up here. Now it actually picked up this cabinet, and I'm just going to go Alt, and I just push in, and it jumps to the next similar. I want to make sure I get that little part of his mouth, so I can click there. But this tool is going to be probably the most useful, because when I go Control C, Control V, Control C copy, Control V paste, and I turn off my background, there's Percy Boy. And now I can go to my Move tool, press V, and I can bounce him around. And notice it even picked up the pixels that I wasn't focused on because I was zoomed out of. Control Z, puts back, put this up, turn him off. Now, why is it important to do things like that? It's going to help us when we set things into place. So if I wanted to mess around and I wanted to come in and say, make Percy seem an even larger dog than he already is, I can easily reposition him in here. I'd want to clean up the edge. I'd want to work on this a little bit more. I'd probably try to make it look like there's a shadow underneath him so his head was resting on top of that toy that I'm holding. But then when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, he's looking like a pretty big guy. If I kept going, now he looks like a really big guy. So this is a way that some people you can go inside, you can grab components, and you can move things around. I can also do things like, my cabinet's there. I can move him, and I can play with over here on the side the opacity. And then this way, when I'm doing things like this, I can make sure I don't have parts showing that I don't want to show. I can know that if I'm doing a manipulation and I want things to bend and form, I can see through my piece. So that's an opacity setting there. Some people try to do where they'll mess with like the brush opacity, and that's if you're working with a texture. But we can bounce him around a little bit. All right, so we're gonna turn off Giant Percy. So those are the top 4 tools. We're gonna jump a little bit because I think you're gonna find this useful. So we're gonna come down here. So if I hit B for brush, my brush actives, the tool right below it is the clone stamp tool. When I right click, I have clone stamp or pattern stamp. We're gonna use clone stamp. And what that's gonna allow us to do is we're gonna set a target, and I go to this layer. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press Alt, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit first. So you see how the cursor changes from just a circle to this little symbol that looks like a target for like a video game. So I'm gonna click on him, and I'm gonna click him right there. That's my start point. Now I'm gonna come up to layer 1, which is blank, and I'm gonna turn off Percy, but we'll make this bigger. And this shows you what the clone is going to do. And the more I wiggle my mouse, the more the clone happens. So the way the cloning works is the clone tool will reproduce your image that it's targeted from. It's locked when I press Alt to where I started. So you can see the 2 differences. How it's ghosted here is because I targeted on my lower level by pressing Alt, and this turns into a target. And then when I got to my upper level, I started in a new spot. So I can do things like I can move objects around. So real quick, I'm gonna undo my ghost. And this shows me what I'm trying to get to. So I'm gonna turn back on my lower layer. Let's say I wanna move that cereal box. So I'm gonna target right in the middle of the cereal box. Boink. Go to my upper layer, and I don't want that big of a one, I just want the cereal box. So I'm gonna zoom in a little, and we're gonna put the cereal box over on this side. Now I could use a selection tool, I could copy and drop it. We've seen how to do that. But this lets me go ahead in. Now, I can, even though I've stopped, I can go back in and I can start to fill this in a little bit. I have my sugar reappearing. Then I can use my E for eraser tool, and I can simply click and shift, click, make a straight line, and I can start to erase out the parts I don't want. And this way, I can move things and I can re-manipulate items inside of my work. Now I'd have to replace that cereal box that I'm taking out the section for, and I could mess around with this more, but it's a fast way to kind of lay things out inside of your Photoshop. So today I showed you the Move tool, the Marquee tool, the Lasso tool, the Wand tools, and the Clone Stamp tool. Blink right there. So those things I think are going to help you as you start working on getting to the point where you've added things to your face, and now you want to kind of get specific things. You want to mess around where certain things go, or you don't want to take the time to use a Marquee tool or a selection tool. You just want to pop things in. Does that help you? Awesome. So practice with those tools. And then if you could, either today or Friday, post just a couple pictures of how far you've made it. If you've done any more with your alphabet, post any more with your alphabet. If you've post whatever progress you've made inside of working on your Archimedes style self-portrait. Cool, cool? I will see you Monday. Bye, Kylie. Have a good day.